Danielle, Daniel, it's just Daniel, right? It's just got that weird symbols on it. Daniel, Comic Skater, good. I appreciate your comment there, Comic Skater. Go Team, Goes Planet, Go, of course. Always faithful here. My dear sweet sound engraver is with us. Anakin Solo, Lindea. Haven't seen Lindea for a while. Good to see everybody there. And more people. It looks like we have watching as well. So, it's been quite a little while since we covered Allegiance, right, Al? A couple weeks here.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
Um, Let me just cover some things just to catch everybody up if you've been following along. We've got four separate main character groups that we're following with this book, which is pretty ambitious, but an author like Zahn can do it. So we've got Leia off on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm counting the groups. Yeah.
Yeah, Leia off on her own journey and her mission. Han, Luke, and Chewie off on theirs. That's two. The Hand of Judgment doing their thing, the rogue stormtroopers, and then Mara on hers. So I think it's about four, right? Sometimes they as we're seeing, there's
let's cut like Ozzel and the guys on the reprisal, but that's
the villains, yeah. But our heroes, the ones we're following. Yeah, there are others too, and we've started to see them converge a little bit. So Han, Luke, and Chewie have met up with the Hand of Judgment. They don't know that these are rogue stormtroopers as of yet. Going into our chapters here tonight, and they're the big threat that they're trying to take down are these pirates. These Bloodscar pirates are recruiting, and it's this sector of the galaxy that the Alliance is trying to figure out if they can still have a hold in. Leia's out there, chasing down a possible lead. The Hand of Judgment themselves is trying to sort of right some of the wrongs that they feel are corruption they feel in the Empire. They don't really know. They're still loyal to the Empire, but the Empire the way they think it should be run, not the false and the corrupt orders they've been given as stormtroopers. So it's an interesting place to see them in. Again, really a question of allegiance, for all these people. Han himself really looking at his allegiance. Am I true to this cause? Because again, this is bringing Han to where he is at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back. So Mara she's the Emperor's hand, and she's undercover. She's got this. Go ahead.
You refer to her, and I know where you're coming from, but I'm just kind of bringing this up. I think it's interesting to talk about. You bring her up as a hero.
Yeah, good call.
But she's technically not a hero yet.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the last time Zahn dealt with Mara, it's further in the continuity when she's being plagued by the voice of the dead Emperor, and she wants to kill Luke, and all this stuff. Here we have her as still a loyal servant to the Emperor, but she's naive. We've seen that she's very much duped into thinking he's actually a good guy.
And she is kind of going against the bad part of the Imperial force there.
She's wanting to fight against these pirates who are just out to kill everybody and for themselves, So she's going on these missions and whatnot. She thinks the Empire's good. You get a sense that she's got a good heart within her. Even at this point, she's just totally
she may not be a hero, but she's a protagonist.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Good call. Yeah. So she's undercover at the pirate base. She had been. Then her cover was blown, as we looked at last time we looked at these chapters. It kind of coincided a little bit with Captain Ozzel, the captain of the cruiser who the stormtroopers broke away from. They got involved with her plot a little bit, and they're trying to kill her because they think that she's onto them for letting these rogue stormtroopers escape in one of the specialized ships and kill a officer and stuff like that. So they're trying to cover their butts. She doesn't know any about this, but she's going to figure a little bit out now. So they've actually they've tracked them to the pirate base there on this planet to take out the base. The what is it called? The Reprisal. Yeah, the Imperial cruiser, the Reprisal, is there just to bombard the planet and take it out, period. And that's kind of what's going on. That's where we left Mara before. Tanis, the pirate that she sort of pressed into service to be her agent, it gotten really badly burned. Caldra, the big Imperial agent who's been working as a liaison between the corrupt governor and the pirates, he got away. So Mara's stuck there with this agent Tanis. And we jump with chapter 16 back to our Hand of Judgment guys. Last time we saw them, they were interrogating this rogue group of pirates who were out there looking to recruit and whatnot. And they got some information. They say that they are security agents, basically, for this. I forgot who they were saying claiming to be security agents for, but for one of the companies being affected by the pirates.
Mhm.
And Han and Luke are just pretending, oh, they're just shippers, we're just trying to avoid pirates and stuff. So
Mhm.
they don't really believe each other. And the Larone and the Hand of Judgment, the troopers, they don't believe him so much that they're not going to kill him or anything, but they say, well, you're coming with us. We're just going to keep you on our ship to keep you out of trouble, keep you locked away safe while we go do what we do. And then they're planning just to let him go. That's what's going on at this point. But as they're locked away, Luke, and we'll talk about this. Al and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday. Luke gets a direction in the Force from Obi-Wan again. We're still in that point where he's getting direction from Force Ghost Obi-Wan.
Luke.
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 And he tells him, and so I'll read what is happening here. Al and I both have the same problem, and you can elaborate on it if you want, Al. But this is an area of Luke's training. It's before Empire Strikes Back, even. So he is being still guided by the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan. He hasn't even been sent to Yoda yet. So he needs that guidance of Force Ghost Obi-Wan that happens here and there. But there's something here that happens where I get it. Zahn, I think, is trying to show us that it's not all Obi-Wan just saying, Luke, stretch out with your feelings. And then Luke gets the answer and goes and does it or whatever. He's trying to show a little variety in the back and forth between them. But I think he has Obi-Wan overstep a little bit. Al would agree with a little bit here.
Mhm.
Let me read the passage and you can elaborate on that if you want. So he's in the room that he's been locked in there, and Obi-Wan's saying, focus on the keypad, been instructed. Focus on the numbers. Focus on the keypad? I don't see anything, Luke said, looking back and forth across the line of numbers. He stretched out to the Force, but there was nothing there. The first number is 7. Luke shifted his attention to that key. Was there a lingering sense there? Setting his fingers over the keyboard, he opened himself to the Force, offering it control of his body as he had during the battle with the pirate ships. But his fingers remained motionless. Without the immediacy and stress of combat to drive his thoughts and emotions, he wasn't getting anything. I can't see it, he said. There was a whisper in his mind that might have been a sigh. I like that, sort of frustrated Obi-Wan with him. He's been Force Ghost. But then the numbers are 778 1312. Luke keyed in the sequence. But we both feel that's a bit stepping too far for Force Ghost.
But then here's what gets me. You say Luke keyed in the sequence, nothing happened. Now what?
Yeah, now what?
Now
And he's
what
like, yeah, and he says, run your finger across the underside of the repeater display frame. And Luke does that and ends up opening up a secret compartment in the room, which the rogue troopers didn't even know about because they stole this ship from the what are they called? ISB. Yeah, ISB. Yeah. And it's just weapons cache that's in there. And I do like a little bit. Luke's telling him he also sees in the weapons cache some stormtrooper uniforms, and Luke freaks out a little bit. And Ben has to tell him it's not what you think, at least not entirely. And he says, Luke, Obi-Wan's trying to guide him, and he says, look, trust me, Luke, take one of the blasters and load it. Luke looked at the weapons, hoping fervently that Ben wasn't going to ask him to take on 5 stormtroopers all by himself, and reached for the biggest blaster on the rack. Luke, Ben's voice admonished. He stopped, taking a deep breath and stretching out to the Force. Okay, but if he wasn't supposed to take the biggest blaster, his eyes fell on the small, tiny holdout blaster. I like that. Just don't focus on the strength of the guns, use your Force and whatnot. So I like the push and I like the back and forth.
Men in Black with the cricket.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I like the back and forth, but we both feel there was a little bit of a overstep there, but
yeah, it's like, Luke, grab the toilet paper, Luke. Roll it around your hands, Luke.
Stop. But there was a great line, though. Actually, a really great line that kind of summed this up and got to what Zahn's trying to do. Where does he say it?
Is it that your uncle could have carried you around?
Yeah.
Back until you
where
were
is it? I want to get the whole part though. What Luke says first. Where is that?
You can make this whole thing a lot easier. He complained as he found the right size power pack and gas cartridge and loaded them into the weapon. Your uncle could have carried you around on his back until you were 15 too. Luke grimaced. It had been a stupid thing to say. Sorry, he apologized.
So I do like that. We see the Force, the Force Ghost helping him grow in his training. So they're actually on their way to the ship. They found out the base planet of the pirates from the pirates they interrogated, and they're going there, and they get there just as somebody else gets there. And remember, this is Larone, Marcross, Quiller. These are all these stormtroopers that just went rogue from this ship, the Reprisal. Taking cluster fire. All right, what was that? He asked, starting to lift his hand to the point. And as he did so, a brilliant flash of green light slashed across his view, stabbing down into the landscape below and adding another glowing spot to the cluster already there. What the? Marcross bit out. Oh, fussed. I like that word, fussed, Quiller snarled, throwing the Sawantech up into the side to a tight spiraling curve, turning them back the way they come. From above, another cluster of green turbo blazer bolts flashed out and downward. Lit briefly by the reflection of that fire, the wedge shaped of an Imperial Star Destroyer appeared in the distance. It can't be, Larone breathed. It is, Quiller confirmed grimly. It's the Reprisal. They found us. That's a big moment, right? Because that's the exact ship that they escaped from, and now it's there. Now it's not there looking for them; it's there trying to destroy the pirates' base to also destroy Mara, with hopes that any trace of them being let go.
And
But
they're not the most maneuverable right now because they're linked to the Falcon, right?
yeah, they've got the like welded or linked, coupled or collared to the Falcon, so they're towing it basically.
Because when the Reprisal initially picks them up, they don't have. It's like a strange silhouette for them, so they don't know what it is right away.
Yeah, they don't get it, and it's Colonel Somerville that says no, it's two ships in one, and that's when they make out that's the Sawantech. Those are the rogue troopers we've been looking for. So they put them in their tractor beam. They catch them in their tractor beam. Bad news, right? Our poor stormtroopers are like, we're going to be so tortured and so taken out. And Luke, on the meantime, has been freeing Han and Chewie as well. We get a little. Do we? We're going into Mars. No, not yet. Okay. So Luke frees Chewie, and Han and Chewie, they see that what's going on. They feel themselves being lurched into the tractor beam. So they go and Luke should have warned Han about the stormtrooper uniforms he found, armor he found, but he forgets to. But only Han slashed through and sees it only with the slightest hesitation. Han continued forward, goes into the cockpit there. Situation, he snapped. Suddenly, these prisoners are loose and in the cockpit. Star Destroyer's got us locked, Larone said, his face tightened. Remember, Larone's the leader of these. Tightened as he saw the blaster in Han's hand. Han's got that little holdout blaster that Luke's the. But his voice was crisp and professional. They may be launching ties. We're trying a pendulum, the man at the helm, Quiller presumably added. Any other ships in the area, Han asked. None, Marcross said, gazing darkly at Han from the co-pilot seat. The pirate base also seems to have been effectively neutralized. Okay, Han peered up briefly through the canopy at the triangle shape looming in the distance above them, then tapped Marcross on his armor's shoulder. Out, he ordered. What? Marcross said warningly. I said out, Han said, stepping back again to give Marcross room. We've got some tricky maneuvering to do, and I don't have time to explain it to you. And to their, it's just they're allies. They're all the rogue troopers and Luke, Han, and Chewie. They all want the same thing. They just haven't quite figured it out yet. So there's that mistrust. And Larone does say, okay, go ahead, give him the seat. And I love Han and Chewie's expertise, and they know how to get out of the way of Imperial destroyers. They know how to avoid Imperial entanglements, as he says.
But Mark Cross is kind of very possessive of the pilot seat. He's the pilot. That's what he does. That's what he likes to do. And
Quiller's the pirate. The pilot. Quiller.
Oh, I thought it was Mark Cross. Well, it was Mark Cross that was.
Mark Cross is one of the big baddies. He's like the Gur. No one tells me he's in the co-pilot seat. Yeah,
but I'm saying, it's still a lot to ask of someone to give up control of their own ship. To someone you would suspect is a rebel.
Yeah, and so he told Chewie go get in the Falcon and release the collar, give the Falcon maneuverability on its own, and he says to Chewie, he says, well, what we're going to do is we need a shroud. And he's like, a shroud? What's a shroud? A shroud's something that can shroud or muddy up a tractor beam. Like, we didn't find anything like that when we searched your ship. That's because we don't have one, Han told him as he twisted the Sawantech around again. So where are you planning to get one? Larone demanded. You don't get a shroud, Han corrected, looking up again. You make one. Chewie, go. You gotta love Chewie. Chewie is so I mean, he's just, pardon me, there's only one way to say it. He's so badass in this scene. He's just like,
Yeah.
he knows his stuff. He's there for his friends. He's just expertise in the Falcon.
And
Um,
Han has utmost trust in him.
absolutely. Yeah.
Take the Falcon, do what you know you need to do. And he knows that he knows. It's like they both know what they need to do. They don't have to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what Chewie does is he ends up maneuvering a certain way and taking out some of the TIE fighters that the Reprisal launched. And that explosion of the TIE fighters causes the shroud in between the Reprisal and the Sawantech and the tractor beam, which breaks it,
Yeah,
surprises the shroud and breaks it.
the metal kind of makes the tractor beam kind of freak out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And it loosens up.
And then Chewie, at that point, the Sawantech's so far away from the Reprisal that they're never going to catch it without it going to light speed. So Chewie has all the TIE fighters and the Reprisal itself following him in the Falcon. And as soon as they see that, Han's like, give me control of the ship again. We're going back to save him. And they're like, no, we're not. And he's like, we're going, after the Falcon. And Marcross gets the little holdout blaster from his belt before he can take it. But he says something, pretty logical. Marcross's hand was closer to the holdout blaster than Han's was, and Marcross himself had obviously been expecting the move. The stormtrooper got there the same time Han did, deftly twisting the weapon out of Han's grip and stepping back out of reach. Quiller's right, he said firmly. Instead of arguing, give us a plan that'll work. Makes sense. You can just go, then Luke says, we don't need a plan, Luke interrupted, pointing at the line of data they had suddenly appeared across the comm display. Chewie's already got one. Chewie's the man. Chewie's just, he's leading them away, and he's trusting in the speed of the Falcon. But Han's wondering here, he's wanting to lead them away before he can escape himself. They must have been something in that so Han puts Chewie rather sends a coded transmission to the planet to make the people think, to make the cruiser, the destroyer, the Reprisal think that there's something important, some message has been sent. Well, we can't destroy the Falcon yet. We need to capture it, or else we won't figure out what that message is. He's got that little ploy up his sleeve. Well, they're making up for it now, Quiller said. Then go to there go the ties straight for him. Probably got the tractor beams going too. No problem, Han said, trying to sound more confident than he was. He and Chewie had pulled this sort of flying leap dozens of times, and usually it worked just fine. Only this time, it was just Chewbacca out there, trying to handle both the ship and the quads by himself, all with an iffy hyperdrive to boot. The big Wookiee was good, but Han wasn't sure he was that good. Spoiler alert, he is. You must have been cheering when you were reading this scene, Al. I know you love Chewie.
I was like, go Wookiee, go Wookiee.
And so they're talking, they're watching him go, and Han winced as his armor picks up another dent. Come on, Chewie, move it, he muttered under his breath. Maybe his hyperdrive isn't working, Lerone said soberly. He hasn't tried it yet, Han told him. The lughead's just trying to make sure everyone's on his tail and too far away to come after us. Just how selfless Chewbacca is. He's great. Love Chewbacca. And they say, well, they're going to track him. They're going to track him. And they can try, Han said, heaving a quiet sigh of relief. Chewbacca could pull the craziest, most self-sacrificing stunts. The only place he's going is back here. What if they leave some ships behind as a backstop, Luke asked. I mean, something bigger than those ties, like a patrol boat or two. That would be smart, Han agreed, but I don't think this captain's bright enough for that. Definitely not, Lerone confirmed, luckily for us, because he used to be Lerone's captain. So really cool scene there. Then they have this moment where, okay, the Reprisal's gone. It took off in hyperspace after the Falcon. Now, they know Chewbacca's eventually going to double back, but they need to figure out what to do. And they say, well, we got to go down on the planet. Let's look for the evidence and whatnot that we came for. Let's see how much they destroyed everything. What's the problem? Han demanded, looking back and forth between them. You want me to fly it? You want to fly it? Fine, but let's go. Larone's eyes flicked to Marcross. I don't know, he said uncertainly. And because the Reprisal left TIE fighters to finish up the job of destroying the planet while the Reprisal left. Han frowned at him, and suddenly he got it. That was your ship, wasn't it? He asked quietly. You know all those TIE pilots. We don't exactly know them, Lerone seemed to brace himself. And it isn't our ship. Not anymore. That's okay, Han said, trying to keep his voice casual as he looked at Luke. The kid had a sort of pinched expression on his face, but he looked willing enough. No problem, Luke and me can handle it. It was an easy solution, he knew, but something he didn't think these guys would take it that way. Sure enough, they didn't. No, Lerone said, in a few firmness to his voice. This is our decision. It's our job. Um, then they say they find out before they can really decide on something to do. Suddenly, lasers come up from the planet and take out a bunch of the TIE fighters. So the TIE fighters, like the 4 or 5 that have been left there to finish off the planet, are suddenly being taken out from the planet side. So somebody's still alive down there. And that's a great end to the chapter again.
Mhm.
Little cliffhanger.
But a nice little callback to where Chewie went
Hmm.
to hide to kind of blend in and then able to go back. He went to
Mhm.
Alderaan.
Yeah, went to the Alderaan. That's right.
So the
And they'll
Alderaan system where all the asteroids and
Mhm.
debris was.
Yeah. And they're like, there's nothing in it. There's no way he could go there unless he wants to hide. And that's what the reprisal thinks. Okay,
Mhm.
well, we're gonna go find him. Yeah. Um, chapter 17, Al, I'm going to skip over a little bit at the beginning, at least in terms of reading it, but we'll sum it up and you let me know if there's any parts that you want to kind of draw to specifically. But we're in
Okay.
Mara's perspective, and this is Mara. She's the one that found the lasers still intact down there. All the ships are gone. Now, you remember that the ship that Mara brought to the pirate planet was the Harper's Way, which was the ship that has all the AT-ATs.
Mhm.
That the pirates were originally trying to steal, and they brought them there as a way to kind of get in. And Captain Ozzel of the Reprisal said, destroy everything down there except the Happer's Way, because that's has some of His Excellency's, gear on it that we want to come back for and get. So that's the one ship that's still in operation down there. And Mara's trying to find ways. Tanis, her pirate, cohort there is so wounded he can hardly walk. She's having to use the Force to kind of guide him up. She ends up putting him in a medical pod. Eventually she's going down, but they do find that these lasers, self-defense places in the pirate base are still operable. So she's taking out these ties, but she's thinking to herself, why are these ties? She looks at it. The pirate base was being attacked by Imperial TIE fighters. She stared at the image, her mind refusing at first to believe the real evidence before her eyes. It was impossible. The Emperor's attention was completely absorbed with the rebellion and domestic instability and alien unrest. By direct order from the Emperor himself, pirates and other raiders had been reclassified as a local and system enforcement problem. This couldn't be any sort of official operation against the Bloodscars, unless it was against Mara herself. She felt her face hardening as she turned back to her fire control stick and blew the last TIE fighter away. So that was how it was. This wasn't just about some grand scheme to untie shellship pirates into single massive gang. It wasn't even about a link between pirates and the rebellion. This one went straight into Imperial territory, straight to the top. She looked at the tactical display. The unknown freighter was too far off the Happer's Way. She's going to. So she's finally starting to get it that there's corruption. And I love this naivete about Mara because it just speaks to her pure heart. The Empire's great. The Empire's good. What, you can trust the Empire. There's corruption in government? No. I mean, she's like genuinely shocked to see this corruption that's aimed against her of all things. But it does show how pure and innocent she truly is. In terms of being duped by the Emperor and everything. So she's helping her Tanis there to the ship, to the Happer's Way. And then we leave them again for a bit here, and we go back to the rogue stormtroopers, the Hand of Judgment there, with Han and Luke on the planet. They notice that nothing's there, so they're going to go and look into Shellshift sector. That's where they've traced these comm transmissions from. They think that whatever corruption, whatever things are going on with the pirates is coming from Shellshift sector. So Han notices the display that it says Shellshift sector. Now, I forgot to mention this before, but the main reason that Obi-Wan's Force Ghost comes to Luke is telling him that Leia's in trouble. Leia's in dire trouble, and we learned about that last time we were looking at these chapters. So her mission was to go to Shellshift sector with that representative Chiv Kyrie, or Minister Chiv Kyrie, and all of that. So they know that she's in trouble there, and the whole planet's been kind of shut down because they're looking for her. So Han is trying to maneuver a way to get going with them. But before that, they end up having, so he's talking about, well, we could go with you. And they're like, no, you can't go with us. Well, they're like, look, why don't we join up? We got to go help a friend on Shellshift sector anyway. And they say, why don't you just take your ship and go? They're like, well, maybe we need the Sawantech to break a blockade. They're like, what blockade? Well, there's a blockade. And it finally comes out that Han says, look, our friend is in trouble there. They're looking for her, and they've got a whole blockade over the planet. And then Larone's thinking, they blockaded the planet looking for your friend. And for a long moment, the room was silent. Then Larone stirred. So that's it, he said. as if some long-standing question had just been answered. You're rebels.
Dun,
Actually,
dun, dun.
I know. And this conversation is so good. I might read a lot of it here, but I'll try to kind of skip around. Actually, we're only loosely connected with them, Han corrected. So you're only partial traitors, Grave asked acidly. Well, you're deserters, Luke pointed out. It was very much the wrong thing to say. All 4 stormtroopers stiffened, and Han had no trouble imagining what their expressions were like behind those faceplates. You call us that again, boy, Graves said, his voice like crushed ice, and you'd better be ready to use that blaster. Put it down, Luke, Han ordered. Would the kid never learn when to keep his mouth shut? Anyway, that doesn't matter.
That coming from Han.
I know, coming from Han, exactly. Yes, it matters, Lerone retorted as Luke silently set his borrowed blaster down on the nearest console. No matter what our current situation is, we're still soldiers of the Empire. And we swore an oath to defend it against people like you, Brightwater added. Yeah, I know the oath you swore, Han said, standing a little straighter himself. I swore it too once. And this is going back to the Han Solo trilogy that we got from A.C. Crispin. Larone's half-aimed blaster seemed to waver a little. You were in the military? Cardian Academy, Han said, bittersweet memories flooding back. Graduated with honor. Had a career ahead of me, they said. What happened? Lerone asked. Han grimaced. I saw how the Empire treated people, he said, especially non-humans. This time, all 4 blasters definitely wavered. So did we, Grave muttered. I love this conversation. They're finally getting this meeting of minds here. When did you leave? Brightwater asked. I didn't leave, Han said. I tried to help my superiors. I tried to help. My superiors didn't like that, and they threw me out. End of story. There was another pause. From their stances, Han had the odd feeling that this was a discussion they'd already had. You rebels are trying to tear down order and stability, Lerone said at last. Everything we've worked so hard to build since the Clone Wars. We have no problem with order and stability, Han assured him. No one wants to destroy that. We just want to tear down the parts that are bad. Now, I'm going to stop here just for a second and call out what's happening here. Han, the smuggler, who's never really been sure about his allegiance to the Alliance yet, is being put in place right here where he has to defend the Alliance and even say we, because Luke can't. Luke's too impetuous right now. I think it's interesting.
And he's being very diplomatic.
Incredibly diplomatic. You can tell he's learned from Leia a bit here.
Yeah.
This is and it's a good point because he's learning from Leia. And the next chapter that we end with tonight, we'll see Leia learning a little bit from Han. Mm-hmm. We have no problem with order and stability, Han answered him. No one wants to destroy that. We just want to tear down the parts that are bad. Why can't they be fixed from the inside? Brightwater countered. Because the people running things don't want them fixed, Han gestured toward the ceiling. My partner Chewie was an Imperial slave. A lot of his people still are. You think the governors and Moffs and Admirals want that changed? Maybe the Wookiees are the lucky ones, Grave murmured. You want to tell Chewie that? No, of course not, Grave said. I was just pointing out that it could be worse. Has been worse sometimes. There was an operation on Teardrop just before we parted company with the reprisal, Brightwater said, and the words coming out with the obvious difficulty. Part of the reason we left, actually. It was a raid on a suspected rebel cell in a small town in the hills. Now, this is the scene that we opened the book with, that we saw Han and Luke just finish getting the rebels out of there, and then Lerone, Marcross, Brightwater, all of their platoon was called in to go kill everybody anyway. Han looked at Luke. Teardrop? Wasn't that the place where they'd barely scattered out from both a pirate gang and a Star Destroyer? The rebels were all gone, he told the stormtroopers, before you ever got there. The air suddenly tensed again. You know this for sure? Lerone asked, his tone that of a man not sure he really wanted an answer. Very sure, Han said. Me and Luke had just pulled out the last batch when your ship showed up. Did something bad happen? Luke asked carefully. Lerone turned away. We were ordered to kill them, he said. All of them. Everyone in town, Graves said. He hesitated, starting with the aliens. Oh no, Luke breathed. But you didn't, did you? Lerone didn't answer. Han glanced at Luke, his stomach tightening. Though after Alderaan, what did he expect? What did any of them expect? And you really think this kind of thing can be fixed from the inside? He asked. We're not here to fix the galaxy, Solo, Graves said. We're just soldiers. Not even sure we're that anymore, Brightwater muttered. I'm not here to fix the galaxy either, Han assured them, choosing his words carefully. He had a pretty good read on these men now, and the best way to sell them on this would be to echo their own feelings and motives straight back to them. I just want to fix a corner of it here and there, he waved out towards the stars. Rescuing our friend is one of those corners. Our oath of allegiance was to the Emperor. Maybe, Han said, but if you ask me, a soldier's real job is to protect the people. We don't need you to tell us where our duty lies, Markross said quietly. It was, Han noted with interest, the first comment he'd made since the conversation had turned in this direction. And we're wasting time. You're right, Han agreed. So what's it to be? And I just love that conversation because we finally, all of some of the themes that Zahn has been developing here about allegiance, who are you allied with, who are you loyal to, starts to come together with Han trying to figure out who his allegiance is to, and with the rogue stormtroopers trying to figure out what is their purpose anymore. They broke with the Empire because they saw the corruption, but they still want to be loyal to the Empire, but they know that the Empire is not what they thought the Empire was. So, like, what do they do? And they're a little bit closer to alliance type thinking, just a little bit, here. And they do decide to, okay, everybody load up, we're going. Then Tanis does say before they get in the Happer's Way, we'll jump back to Mara there a little bit. They get in the Happer's Way. They're going to leave the planet, Mara and Tanis. And Tanis says, if I don't make it, bury me in space, let me out in space. And she's like, no, you're going to make it. But halfway on their destination, she does have to stop because she's going to Shelsha Sector 2. She traced the comms there, and Tanis dies. So she has to let him go. And it's interesting. Tanis died because, again, with the theme of allegiance, who are you loyal to? He was an unwilling captive when Mara first found him. And she had to twist his arm, not with threats of violence or death, but sort of psychological, not psychological, let's say logical. This is why it's best for you to help me. And she shows him that she's a Force user and stuff. And then he really is truly loyal to her. We saw that in the base. She thought he had betrayed him at one point, but no, he's the one getting her lightsaber for her, and he knows that she's his way out and through this and whatnot. And him dying, even in death, was totally loyal to her. So it's a really, kind of touching, not to make him a wonderful person all the way around. He was a pirate, but still,
And she, at the end, showed her loyalty to him by granting his final wish.
Yeah.
Which was to be, he said buried in space, but basically just kind of shot out into space.
Yeah. And she does.
But the way
even says a few words over him.
Yeah, the way that he conveys that Tanis died, I thought was very. It was subtle, but very well done. It carried some weight with it. So an hour later, she dropped the ship back out of hyperspace to carry out Tanis's last request.
Yeah, and she even she remembers that something like the Emperor doesn't have time for memorials for the dead, but she still takes a few moments to say a few words over him before she lets him go and stuff. So, and that tells us too what's Mara's allegiance. She's still loyal to this illusion that she thinks the Emperor and the Empire is, but she still has some sort of core moral compass as well there. So
I like this, like when she again seeing herself in the freighter's helm, it was with a dark and icy anger in her soul.
Yeah,
nice line. I like that.
Yeah. Now, chapter 18 is such a good chapter. Again, it's one that I could just read the whole thing easily. So I'm going to kind of sum it up a little bit, and then I'll read the end. And Al, if there are any specific parts that you'd rather read yourself rather than the summary, you stop me and let me know. But this is Leia back on, I forget the planet, but the Shelsha sector, the planet Macron City. Now, when we last left her off, we found that, what was the chief administrator? Distra, who was the chief administrator, really the one who's behind all this corruption. Governor Chord is the governor, but chief administrator Distra is the one. And he was the one saying, yeah, we'll totally join the alliance. Yeah, the governor wants to join the alliance. And he's the one that Representative Shiv Kyrie led Leia to. Now, he recognized Leia. And as a result, after that meeting, he put a blockade. All female humans, I think, were blocked from leaving the planet. And then he called in the Empire. Remember, he called in, as Al was reading last time, he called in Darth Vader's ship directly, So you got the Empire's there, the ship, they're blockaded the planet, trying to find Leia. They know she's on it somewhere. And Shiv Kyrie is, we learned a little bit about his character, his caste system with the Adarians there. They were very beholden to custom and to honor. And if your rank was above this rank, then you couldn't, you must stay in my house. You must have, it's the very, almost like Japanese sense of honor, but to the 12th power. I mean, just really ramped up. Um, and there's a part here where, okay, so Shivkari ducked his head. He reveals that he was planning, he planned to get my servants to pick up your belongings, because she said it's better for us to stay in a slummy hotel. They won't be looking for that. And
Mhm.
Shivkari admits that he had planned on getting his servants to go take their belongings back to his home. Leia grimaced. They were indeed an inflexible people. So where are we going now? Don't worry, Princess Leia, Shivkari said, his voice grim but steady. My tier status will no longer be a problem for us, nor will it cloud my thinking and dictate my actions. He seemed to brace himself. For you see, my actions have betrayed my guest. I have no choice but to renounce my name, my home, and my tier status. Leia stared at him in surprise. For an Adarian to do such a thing was the societal equivalent of cutting off his arm. Did he really understand that? She opened her mouth to ask, and had the grace to shut it again. Of course he understood. By joining the rebellion, he had tacitly stated he was willing to give his life for freedom. Now he had placed his social standing on the line as well. For an Adarian, that was a far harder decision to make. Thank you, Leia murmured. What now? So Shiv Kyrie himself, as annoying as he was to begin with, his allegiance is to freedom, ultimately, even above his own planet's customs and cultures. So he decides that, okay, we're going to go into this place. We're going to go into the catacombs, and it's a great place to hide. Well, yeah, it is, so much so that we're not going to stay there because it's the first place they'll search once they stop searching the high tier places. And Shiv Kyrie is really good. He's got this great idea. He wants her to hide in plain sight. So he arranges for her to take a job at a tap calf, which it really is kind of hiding in plain sight. If she's got this job, I mean, they'd never think Princess Leia, princess of former Alderaan and leader of the rebellion, would go be a waitress in a tap calf. That's a pretty good hiding place. And
I mean, talk about like hiding among the dregs of society.
Exactly. And it is rough. She talks about her being there on her first day, and because of the Adarians with their tier caste system, each table you go to, you're supposed to take the order of the highest tier member at the table first, and then so there's no order or random. She's getting it wrong. People are complaining. All these different alien types in there she doesn't really understand so much, because she's used to just androids, taking our droids taking the orders and stuff where she grew up. Some humans do eventually show up, but they're too drunk to be much of a relief, to her. And it's a really grueling day. It's a rough day. And she goes, the tap calf has a couple apartments for its staff upstairs. So she goes up there. Shiv Kyrie's in the room already, has some food there for her. She's exhausted, and they're talking about how bad things have gotten. The empire is pretty much there. They've got the things sectioned off. And she's like, well, we just try to stay free as long as we can and hope that the rebellion can send somebody or whatever. And as she's making food, she looks out the window and they hear a crash, like some glass crashing. And they look across the street, and Shiv Kyrie says, oh, it's burglars over there. Those are the theater folk, in the theater district tend to live in those houses over there, and the plays are still going on. So somebody's breaking into a house over there. And Shiv Kyrie's like, don't get involved. We can't get involved. And Leia's not going to get involved until she sees one of the curtains twitch and she sees the face of a child. So there is a child in the apartment that these burglars are breaking into. And she says to herself, she's, I've seen what burglars can do when they come across somebody unexpected like that. So she's trying all these different things. This is where, like, if Han learns from her with the diplomacy, she's learning from Han a little bit on like something needs to be done, So she's trying to figure out a way to get over there. She's looking at the drain pipes on the building, if she can get one to cross over, and she can find a way to cut the burglars off before they get to the proper window or whatever. It doesn't quite work. She realizes if she does this, she'll still be in their sights with the allies there, but she ends up using the blaster to kind of break the drain pipe up a little bit to try and get over there. And when she finds out that's not going to work, at least she does find that blaster fire was enough to scare away the burglars. That no one's supposed to be here. No one's supposed to be around, but they're hearing blaster fire in the vicinity when they're trying to break in. So that's enough to scare them away. And Leia does see the face of the child, the Adarian child over there, peer back out and seemingly look at her, but Leia's not sure if she really sees her in the dark of her side yet, but she sees it a little bit, so Leia did stop this child from being attacked.
Mhm.
And what I want to read is the last page of the chapter about the next day. Rather to Leia's surprise, the patrollers didn't come that night. They didn't show up in the morning either, nor were they waiting for her when she reported to the Tapcaf just before midday for her shift. For the first couple of hours, she found her heart jumping every time the door opened, followed by an equally quick flash of relief when it turned out to be only another customer. It wasn't until afternoon lull began to ramp up again toward the pre-dinner hour that she noticed the subtle change in the customer's attitude toward her. At first, she thought they'd simply given up on her, that they decided there was no point in expecting her to get the nuances of their culture right, and thus no point in berating her anymore, even politely, when she messed up. But while that might explain the regulars' new courtesy, it didn't explain those who hadn't seen her in the fumbling action the previous day. They were midway through the dinner rush when a large but quiet Adarian family arrived, a family that included a child, whose face she'd seen across her window the previous night. And then, finally, she understood. Shivkari had been right. Her blaster fire had indeed woken up the entire neighborhood. But instead of reporting her to the patrollers, they'd realized it had been an attempt to help, and a successful one at that. Apparently, their new tolerance for her failings was their way of thanking her. Leia returned to the apartment later, as weary in body as she'd been the night before, but this time there was no despair to drag her still farther down. Perhaps the people of Macron City weren't ready yet to take a stand against Imperial Center's tyranny, but they were getting closer. Whether this new determination and respect would survive when Imperial troops were marched through the streets, of course, was another question. One way or another, Leia would find out soon enough. I love the nature of that story in that chapter because it shows Leia in action. Now, not that she wouldn't have done that without Han's influence, but if we saw Han using diplomacy, we get to see Leia using a little bit of swashbuckling, which is just a neat balance to that. But I just love how what a lovely example of the aspirational hero that Leia is. We talk a lot about Luke being the aspirational hero of Star Wars, and he is, because that first trilogy that grounds all of Star Wars does follow his story. But Leia's equally as aspirational. Leia can't help but to inspire others when she acts, because she acts with such pure, altruistic, heroic motives, And this one little scene is just a nice little example, just trying to save a child, not even really doing anything that would have saved the child if the burglars kept going, but in trying to, scared them off, and that inspired the Cole community to kind of come around her. It puts us in mind a little bit of later in the Thrawn trilogy when the Nogri clan comes around her and, for the sake of honor, won't let her, the Thrawn and his people catch her, So it's a great chapter. And I know I kind of breezed through it a little bit, Al, but did you want to go back to any specific parts or say anything I missed on it?
No, you summed it up pretty well. I just the image of her serving and just not really knowing what she was doing.
I know.
I think it was precious.
The princess waitress. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Shivkari's like, unless of course you'd rather cook. She's like, no, I don't know cooking. I don't know Adarian recipes.
It's like a Hallmark
I'll serve
movie.
tables.
It's like a Hallmark movie where the princess is visiting a small town and ends up waiting at the diner.
Only you would compare it to a Hallmark film, Al. But yeah, something like that. So yeah, that's our chapters for tonight. Now to decide on what to read for next week, because we are coming to the end, and I don't want to belabor. I think within 2 weeks at least, maybe 1 week. Let me see.
I think 2.
Al has spoken. It shall be 2. Let's see. Well, we start on chapter 9. We got chapter 19 through 24. In my book, that's about 246 to 324 pages. I don't know. Yeah, I guess let me see what a good stopping point would be. 22, 24, no, 21 maybe. Let's see what the page count looks like.
A total of 20. Yeah, okay. Well, basically, we've got 5 chapters left. Oh, wait, no, we've got 6 chapters left.
I think if we read chapters 19 and 20 next week, because the last ones are kind of short, and that means we can do 21, 22, 23, and 24 because they're shorter chapters. So the page count's actually a little less than even 19 and 20. So we'll just do 19 and 20 for next week.
Oh, okay.
That look good to your, if you're dividing your pages up there? It looks about, it's about
That,
even.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure where the cutoff was going to be, if it was going to be 21 or 22.
So we'll just do 19 to 20. And I'm saying next week. I don't mean next week, actually. I mean the week after. Horizon Talker just popped in and said the worst part about a bi-weekly stream schedule is I forget whether there's a stream this week or not. Yeah, well, there's a book study stream every week, but I've just divided it. So we're doing the EU every other week on this channel, and we're doing the Lord of the Rings book study over on the Catholic Bible Geek channel on the off weeks of that. So but yeah, this book is only done every other week. So yeah. So the week after next, we'll do chapter 19 and 20, and then we'll finish this up soon enough. Maybe next week I'll put out a poll or something, or I'll kind of poll the chat there to see what possible book to do next. For a while there, I was wanting to do the EU's take on the Boba Fett story. And we still might do that, but there are other ones, like I said, Darth Plagueis or going into, forget what else I had in mind at one point, but anyway, there's other stuff to talk about. It'd still totally be up for the EU Boba Fett story, but we shall see. So that's going here. Like I said, I'll have some other content here and there on this channel. I got other stuff going off on my other channel, of course, but Saturday, Al, what's going on? Is it your channel? No, it's not your channel anymore. It's Nanette's channel.
Yeah, it is. This week it is my channel. Big Al presents Films with Friends, Tremors, the original film. We're going to Perfection, Nevada, and dealing with the origin of the graboids.
Eagle said, another book? Tatooine Ghost? Thanks for reminding me. It's in the running. It's definitely, it's going to happen soon. That's for sure. So, yeah. Anakin Solo says, Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis would be a great one. Oh, yeah, and the Shatterpoint, the Mace Windu novel, was amazing. Oh, my gosh, I finally read that. It was so good. That's possible. Yeah, so many good ones. I mean, we're gonna keep celebrating the EU for as long as I'm here to do it. So lots of great stuff. So all right, so Tremors this week.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, Tremors this week. Yeah,
yes, Saturday night, 10 o'clock.
Saturday night on Al's channel.
My channel.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the lovely Sound Engravers stream again on Monday night, and we will be back, like I said, over on the Catholic Bible Geek channel. I'm also doing like a survey through the Bible course, which will happen maybe not tomorrow, but at some point this week. And then that's a weekly thing. But then every other week, bouncing back between the book studies of the EU, Star Wars EU, and the Tolkien stuff over there. So lots of content to come. But any last comments or words or anything for tonight, Al?
Have you had a chance to talk to Sound Engraver tonight since I talked to you?
No, I didn't. Yeah, go ahead. She's been
at Sound Engraver. Bless your beloved mother. I got her card, and it was beautiful and so sweet, and just beautiful. And thank her so very, very much for me.
She does write good cards, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. It was beautiful in there.
Yeah, and this is a card.
She did say something about some filthy man going after her daughter. I don't know, something like that. No, I'm just kidding.
Just for those who don't know, this is a bereavement card for Al.
Yeah,
having recently lost his mother. So just so people don't think that, why is Sound Engraver's mom sending you cards, Al? What's going on?
Well, you know I am now. I can go on. I'm not going to do it.
And click off. End stream.
I'll be nice.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So thank you guys. And yeah, that's great. But thanks for hanging out. I'll maybe Al and I'll do a stream about the Kingsman movies once we finish out the other two, and see what we think about the whole movement in general or something at some point. So that's all for now, folks. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love.
Bye-bye.